Here we are again, working together with REDES A.C. to support the Mexican Indigenous community's will to have their own internet from the ground. This time we arrived to Yaviche, a rural community in the state of Oaxaca, for a 3-day workshop activities to start materializing their own network with local services by and for themselves. Let me give you a little bit of background of the context in this community. Actually, in this community, like in many other communities, locals tend to leave their indigenous villages all around Mexico to seek for a better future in the western cities. They seek for higher education, jobs, or western-like lives. In this context, where there is almost no presence of their own culture, they end up not only leaving their homes, but also their practices, languages, families. Only just a portion of them return to their communities. Yaviche was living a similar experience, but decided that they could do something about it. They started creating their own secondary school that included traditional education, a community radio, a mobile telephony service, a university, all of them owned and operated by the community. By the means of all these projects and many others, and also by the relationship that they have with the Western world, it has created a presence of technology quite different from many other communities. You can see computers and phones around, and the usage of them regularly is evident. Also, it's important to note that for some time, third-party internet providers, not related with the community, have been operated in the region. Today, the community decided to go one step further and explore the possibility of having their own infrastructure, managed and owned by them, that supports a bottom-up approach to internet. In this bottom-up internet, not only the infrastructure belongs to them, but they are producing and collecting their own content in their language and sharing it locally on their own server. One of the concerns that we brought to the workshop was, based on previous experiences, traditional knowledge has been misused by many companies without asking for permission, giving attribution, or sharing the development or profit from the knowledge. How would we do to be able to have control over the traditional knowledge that gets shared over the network once it gets connected to the internet? Or even with foreigners that come over and connect to the network? After some not very productive discussions, one of them said, "We can't foresee what will happen. When the time comes, we, as a collective, will know what to do." That struck me, but it made me realize that many of the ways we design processes are not the same as how communities do. And so we need to be even more flexible and be active listeners of these processes. The workshops in this visit were held at the university with the team that is running the network. We reviewed the commitments that they made with themselves in our last visit, and we ran a workshop on media production in different formats: video, audio, and text. We also did several sessions to understand how the network works, from getting to know the different elements of a network to build a small network with cables, switches, and computers, even to a little bit of IP addresses to connect locally to an offline network to edit the content of their own server. Because this is a wireless network, they also experienced tower climbing, went through their considerations before climbing, the procedure, and practiced in pairs. After 2 days, we started to run out of time, and the collective and us had a commitment with the local authorities to have the network running before we left. That was why most of the installation in high sites were done by us, with the support of the local team. Future steps will involve requiring them to do it also. They decided to name their network NuestraNet, or in English, Our Net. They collected a set of content that they wanted to share with their community, so one of the last tasks was to define a structure to it so we could create a web page all together to contain the content. One of the things that was extremely relevant for the community was related to the language preservation. That was why we started thinking of the structure of the content, and they decided to do it in their own language. The authoring tool for their web pages was LibreOffice Writer. It is a great abstraction over HTML that allows them to author content without having to mess around with HTML, CSS, JavaScript content management managers, and other complex systems, and also allows them to easily understand how the network relates with the content and start creating useful and solid abstractions for them to build on top of it. The other priority was to have meaningful content for the students. We brought them Rachel Pi, and with it, Wikipedia and Khan Academy in Spanish, the closest to their language for now. But also, there was an inquiry of them having the chance to have their own. The students presented the platform to the authorities, and after that, we wrapped up by having a feedback on what things come next. They expressed their interest of deepen their knowledge on how to produce content and develop web pages. Further visits will come, but for now, NuestraNet is online in Yaviche.